The massive assembly hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a giant metal cave filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Ambassador Lee Hana walked slowly toward the speaking platform, her simple black suit making her look tiny compared to the huge alien delegates around her. The air smelled of metal and unknown chemicals as dozens of different breathing systems worked to keep everyone alive. Hana looked around at the weird mix of aliens filling the seats. The Krathi looked like giant bugs covered in metal armor, their sharp claws clicking against their chairs. The tall Vorthak wore flowing robes that hid their snake-like bodies, while the ancient elders of Zephyr glowed softly like living stars. Compared to all these scary-looking aliens, the three humans in the room seemed like children who had wandered into the wrong place. A voice boomed through the hall, translated into hundreds of languages at once. The representative from Earth will now speak to the council. Hana stood up gracefully, moving like a dancer even though her heart was beating fast. She had practiced this speech 1,000 times, but standing here in front of beings who could destroy her planet with a thought made her mouth feel dry. Great council members, she began, her voice calm and friendly. Humanity comes to you not as conquerors or warriors, but as friends. We want to share what we know, learn from your wisdom, and live peacefully among the stars with all of you. A horrible laughing sound came from the Krathi section. War leader Vextar, the biggest and meanest looking of the bug aliens, made a noise like grinding metal. His red eyes glowed as he stared at Hana like she was something he wanted to step on. Soft little creatures want protection like babies hiding behind their mothers, he said, his words coming out harsh and angry through the translator. What weapons do you bring to this council? What worlds have you conquered? How many other species bow down to you? None, Hana answered simply, never losing her smile. We believe that working together makes everyone stronger, not fighting and hurting others. The laughter got louder. Even the glowing elders, who usually stayed quiet, seemed amused by her words. To them, humans looked weak and stupid. Dr. Kim Jinho, the only other human allowed to speak, stepped forward with a small computer tablet. The screen showed Earth's technology to all the aliens watching. What they saw made them laugh even more. Human spaceships looked slow and clunky. Human weapons seemed like toys. Human cities looked like they could be destroyed easily. Your species might be useful for simple work, said the Vorthak representative, his voice cold like winter wind. We could find jobs for you in our mining colonies far from here. Hana's smile never changed. But if someone looked very carefully, they might notice her eyes getting slightly harder. Thank you for the offer, but humans prefer to make their own choices about their lives. The council members talked among themselves for only a few minutes, like they were deciding what to have for lunch instead of the future of an entire species. Finally, they announced their decision. Humanity would be given protection status over 17 small worlds in the edge of the galaxy. The planets were mostly empty rocks that nobody else wanted. As the meeting ended, War Leader Vextar walked over to the human group. Up close, he was even more terrifying. Metal tubes and wires stuck out of his bug-like body, and scars covered his armor like trophies from countless battles. His claws could probably cut through steel, and his glowing red eyes looked at humans like they were insects. Soft skins, he growled, his voice making the floor vibrate. Your new worlds are close to where my people like to travel. Maybe we will come visit you soon to make sure you are safe from danger. The threat was clear to everyone. The Krathi were already planning to attack the human colonies as soon as they were built. Hana bowed politely, still smiling her diplomatic smile. Humanity always welcomes visitors, War Leader. We hope you will find our hospitality very memorable when you come. The Krathi group walked away, already laughing about how easy it would be to destroy the weak humans. They were so busy planning their future raids that none of them noticed the tiny smile that crossed Hana's face for just a second. Dr. Kim quietly tapped something on his tablet, sending a secret message back to Earth. The message was very short. Just 2 words that would change everything. Phase 1. As the great assembly hall emptied, the aliens all believed they understood exactly what humans were. Weak creatures who needed protection, soft beings who were afraid to fight, primitives who would be easy to control or destroy. They were about to learn how wrong they could be, but not yet. For now, humanity would continue to smile, bow politely, and seem harmless. The mask would stay on just a little longer, until the galaxy made the mistake of believing their own lies about human weakness. In the darkness of space, human ships began moving toward their new worlds, carrying colonists who looked like peaceful farmers and shopkeepers. The galaxy watched them go with amusement, never guessing that they were watching wolves dressed as sheep, heading out to build something that would change the balance of power forever. The deception had begun. 3 months had passed since the humans received their tiny corner of the galaxy. Captain Park Minho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Harmony, watching the stars drift by through the big front window. The ship looked peaceful and simple on the outside, painted in soft blue and white colors like Earth's sky. Anyone scanning it would see only basic exploration equipment and weak engines. But Captain Park knew better. Hidden beneath the ship's innocent appearance were secrets that could change everything. "Captain," said Lieutenant Cho Yuna from her station, "we're getting another friendly message from our Krathi neighbors. They want to build a friendship post on New Busan colony." Park nodded, but his face looked grim. The Krathi had been sending scouts near human worlds for weeks now, like wolves circling a flock of sheep. Each time they came closer, testing to see how the humans would react. "Send them our usual polite response," Park said. "Tell them we're honored by their interest and will consider their request." What the Krathi didn't know was that every one of their scout ships was being watched, tracked, and recorded. Human sensors hidden throughout their space followed every movement the bug aliens made. Down in the ship's science lab, Dr. Song Mira worked with samples she had collected from different alien species. Her official reports talked about interesting discoveries and peaceful research. But her real work was much darker. She was studying how to hurt different aliens if humans ever needed to fight them. "The Krathi are very interesting," she whispered into her secret recorder. "Their metal body parts need special chemicals to work. If we could stop those chemicals from reaching their organs, they would become very weak very quickly." The Harmony. Docked at New Seoul, the biggest human colony and the center of their new territory. Governor Yang Doyan met them at the landing bay with a big smile and warm handshakes. He looked like a friendly politician, the kind of man who would never hurt anyone. The aliens watching human colonies saw exactly what they expected to see. Happy families building homes, farmers growing food, children playing in parks. Everything looked peaceful and normal. "How is the farming project going?" Captain Park asked as they walked through the colony's main street. "Very well," Governor Yang replied with a smile. "We've found the best places to plant our crops on all 17 worlds. The water systems are almost finished and our farming equipment has been sent to every settlement." Anyone listening would think they were talking about growing vegetables and raising animals. But both men knew they were really talking about hidden weapons, secret bases, and military equipment disguised as farm tools. As evening came to New Seoul, Park received a secret message from Earth. Admiral Kang Seojin's serious face appeared on the private communication screen in Park's quarters. "Captain, our spies report that the Krathi are planning something big. War leader Vextar has been given permission for what they call a territorial adjustment operation." Park felt his stomach tighten. "How much time do we have? Maybe days, maybe hours. Are your people ready?" Park looked out his window at the peaceful colony streets. Human families were finishing their dinners, tucking their children into bed, and preparing for another quiet night. Parents were reading bedtime stories while teenagers did homework. It all looked so normal and safe. "They've been ready since the day we arrived, Admiral. We're just waiting for the Krathi to make their move." The message ended, leaving Park alone with his thoughts. Outside, hidden sensors detected Krathi warships moving toward the edge of their space, like sharks swimming toward innocent swimmers. What the Krathi couldn't see was what lay beneath the surface of human civilization. Every major building had secret rooms filled with weapons. Every farm had underground bunkers stocked with military supplies. Every peaceful colonist knew exactly what to do when the alarm sounded. The factories that seemed to make farming equipment were really building advanced weapons. The transportation systems that moved food and supplies also moved soldiers and ammunition. The communication networks that carried family messages also carried military orders. Dr. Song's biological research had discovered weaknesses in every major alien species in the galaxy. The Krathi's metal body parts could be poisoned. The Vorthak's breathing systems could be disrupted. Even the ancient elders had vulnerabilities that humans had quietly mapped and studied. Governor Yang walked through New Seoul's quiet streets, after dark, checking on his people. To anyone watching, he looked like a caring leader making sure his citizens were safe. In reality, he was inspecting defensive positions and confirming that hidden weapon systems were ready to activate. In space, human ships that appeared to be simple cargo haulers and research vessels were actually sophisticated military craft. Their crews pretended to be scientists and traders, but they were really soldiers waiting for orders. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had looked at humanity and seen weakness where there was strength, fear where there was patience, and innocence where there was careful planning. Soon, the Krathi would attack expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, they would discover that the sheep they planned to slaughter were actually wolves in disguise, and the wolves had been preparing for this moment since the day they first arrived in alien space. The mask was still on, but underneath it, human rage was building like a storm waiting to break. The attack on New Busan began when the sun was rising. Krathi warships dropped out of the sky like angry metal birds, their weapons shooting bright beams of death at the human colony below. All across the galaxy, aliens turned on their viewing screens to watch what they thought would be an easy massacre. Commander Seo Ji-hoon crouched in what looked like a quickly built bunker made of concrete and metal scraps. Around him, his defenders looked like ordinary people who had been given guns and told to fight. There were shopkeepers, farmers, teachers, and mechanics, just regular colonists trying to protect their homes. All units, hold your positions. Ji-hoon spoke into his radio, his voice shaking just the right amount to sound scared. We have to protect the escape routes. Give the families time to reach the safe shelters. The Krathi ground forces landed with loud crashes, their metal boots stomping through the colony streets. War leader Vextar led them personally, his huge bug-like body covered in weapons and armor. He had brought only some of his warriors because he expected this to be as easy as stepping on ants. The human defenders fell back slowly, firing their simple weapons at the advancing Krathi. Their bullets bounced off the aliens' thick armor like raindrops. One by one, the humans seemed to die as the Krathi pushed forward, their laser weapons cutting through barricades like hot knives through butter. Soft skins run like frightened animals, Vextar told his soldiers through their communication system. Take some alive for the slave camps, kill anyone who fights back. Television stations across the galaxy showed the battle to billions of viewers. The news reporters talked about humanity's expected weakness while Krathi propaganda channels celebrated their warriors' easy victory. But if someone watched very carefully, they might notice strange things about the battle. Most of the humans who died were old people who fought extra hard before falling down. The families running away moved in surprisingly organized groups like they knew exactly where to go. And the colony's power systems kept failing at just the right times, creating dark areas where retreating humans seemed to disappear completely. Dr. Song Mira worked frantically in what appeared to be a medical station, treating wounded human soldiers. She wore a white coat covered in blood and looked terrified as explosions shook the building around her. In reality, she was monitoring special sensors hidden throughout the colony, collecting detailed information about how Krathi bodies worked during real combat. Very interesting, she whispered into her secret recorder while pretending to bandage a soldier's arm. Their metal body parts get very hot when they fight for a long time. Their heart rates show weak spots that we could target later. By the time night fell, the Krathi had won. New Busan's government buildings lay in ruins, smoking and broken. The human defensive positions had been overrun, and the colonists had scattered into the wilderness like frightened rabbits. War leader Vexitar planted a huge Krathi battle flag in the colony's main square, declaring the planet to be a forward base for attacking other human worlds. His warriors cheered and celebrated their easy victory. The galactic news networks quickly moved on to other stories. The fall of New Busan was exactly what everyone had expected. weak humans getting crushed by superior aliens. The Galactic Council issued a boring statement saying they felt bad about the deaths but wouldn't do anything to help. The Krathi soldiers set up their occupation force in the ruined buildings, confident that they had completely defeated the humans. They posted guards, established communication centers, and began planning their next attacks on other human colonies. What they didn't notice were small changes happening around them. The local birds and animals started acting differently, moving, in patterns that seemed almost like they were watching the aliens. The air seemed to taste slightly different, though the changes were too small for Krathi sensors to detect. And sometimes, in the areas they thought were completely empty, shadows seemed to move when no one was there to cast them. Deep underground, in bunkers that had never appeared on any building plans, Commander Seo Ji-hoon studied computer screens, showing exactly where every Krathi soldier was positioned throughout the colony. Around him, the real defenders of New Busan waited quietly in the darkness. These weren't the shopkeepers and farmers the Krathi had fought during the day. These were professional soldiers who had spent months preparing for exactly this situation. They had better weapons, better armor, and years of training that the aliens knew nothing about. Phase 2 is ready to begin, Ji-hoon reported through encrypted communication channels that the Krathi couldn't detect. The trap is set perfectly. All units are standing by for the signal. Above ground, war leader Vextar settled into his new headquarters, already making plans to attack the next human world. He felt proud of his easy victory and looked forward to conquering more soft-skinned colonies. He had taken the bait exactly as human military planners had predicted he would. The Krathi thought they had won a great victory, but in reality, they had walked straight into a carefully prepared trap. Soon they would learn the difference between what humans appeared to be and what humans actually were. The sheep were about to reveal themselves as wolves, and the wolves were very, very hungry. The counterattack began exactly 3 days after New Busan fell, just when the Krathi soldiers had started to feel safe in their new base. Admiral Kang Seojin's fleet appeared at the edge of the star system like ghosts materializing from nothing. But these were not the weak human ships the aliens remembered. Captain Park Min-ho now commanded a vessel called the Retribution, and it looked nothing like the peaceful harmony he had flown before. The hull gleamed with weapon systems that seemed to come from science fiction movies, yet the design was unmistakably human. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. All ships, begin Phase 3. Admiral Kang's voice crackled across the communication channels. Show them what we've really been building all this time. The space battle lasted only minutes, but those minutes changed everything. Human ships moved together like dancers performing a deadly ballet, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be. Their weapons cut through Krathi shields like scissors through paper, while their own defenses easily stopped attacks that should have destroyed them. The Krathi fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, found themselves outmatched by ships they had dismissed as primitive just days before. On New Busan's surface, the real war began when Commander Seo Ji-hoon's true forces emerged from their hidden bunkers. The elderly people who had died in the first attack suddenly stood up from where they had fallen, pulling off special devices that had made them appear dead. They moved like professional soldiers, not frightened civilians. War leader Vextar found his headquarters surrounded by humans who moved with military precision. His communications with his fleet returned only static noise, and the reinforcements he called for never came. "What are you?" he demanded, his translator struggling to convey his shock and confusion. "We're exactly what we told you we were," Commander Seo replied calmly, checking his advanced weapon. "We're peaceful people, but peace is a choice, war leader. You made it impossible for us to choose peace with you." The biological weapons Dr. Song-mira had developed began to work throughout the colony. They didn't kill the Krathi. Humans hadn't completely abandoned their principles, but they made the alien soldiers too sick and weak to fight. Within hours, the entire occupation force was helpless. All across human space, the 17 colonies dropped their disguises like actors removing masks. Buildings that had looked like simple factories opened up to reveal advanced weapon manufacturing plants. Farms activated hidden defense systems that rose from underground bunkers. Transportation networks that had carried food and supplies suddenly showed their true purpose, moving soldiers and military equipment Governor Yang Doyun spoke to the Galactic Council from New Seoul, but his friendly politician's smile was gone. In its place was the cold, calculating expression of a military strategist who had been planning this moment for months. "For months you have watched humanity with amusement," he said, his voice cutting through the council chamber like a blade. "You dismissed us as weak and primitive. You allowed the Krathi to attack our people because you believed we couldn't defend ourselves. This was a terrible mistake." Behind him, display screens showed real-time information from across human space. Krathi forces were being systematically defeated, their equipment captured, their soldiers contained. What disturbed the watching aliens most was how coordinated the human response was. This wasn't desperate fighting, but the careful execution of a plan that had been years in the making. "We came to you seeking peace, because peace is what we truly wanted," Yang continued. "But never mistake what we want for what we can do. Humanity has studied every species in this galaxy. We learned from your technologies, understood your weaknesses, mapped your strengths. We chose to share our knowledge freely, to build instead of destroy, to cooperate instead of conquer. But when you force us to fight, you will discover that we are very, very good at it." The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council sitting in shocked silence. Across the galaxy, intelligence agencies scrambled to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. The polite diplomats, the peaceful farmers, the primitive technology, all of it had been an elaborate lie. The ruins of his command post, War Leader Vextar looked up at Commander Seo with something that might have been respect mixed with fear. "You fooled us completely," he said simply. "We learned to play the game you taught us," Seo replied. "The strong eat the weak. Territory belongs to whoever can hold it. Might makes right. We studied your rules very carefully, War Leader. Perhaps we learned them too well." The Krathi commander's red eyes dimmed as he realized the full scope of what had happened. Humanity hadn't just defeated his forces, they had outsmarted his entire species. Around the galaxy, other alien civilizations watched the news reports with growing unease. If the humans could deceive the mighty Krathi so completely, what else? Were they hiding? How many other peaceful human colonies were actually military bases in disguise? The mask had finally fallen away, revealing the true face of humanity. They were still the same species that had asked for peace at the Galactic Council, but now everyone understood that their request had been an offer, not a plea. And when that offer was refused, the consequences were more terrible than anyone had imagined. The true size of humanity's deception became clear over the next few weeks as reports flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. The Krathi Empire, which had seemed unstoppable for decades, suddenly found itself fighting wars on dozens of worlds at the same time as conquered species rose up in perfect coordination. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood before an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council, still wearing her simple diplomatic clothes, but now her calm voice carried a coldness that made even the ancient elders shiver. "For 6 months, humanity has been running spy networks throughout Krathi space," she announced to the shocked assembly. "We have given weapons, training, and battle plans to every resistance group, every enslaved population, every conquered world that the Krathi claimed as their property." The huge display screens around the chamber showed the scope of the uprising. Dozens of planets were in revolt simultaneously, their freedom fighters equipped with human weapons and guided by human military advisors. The Krathi army, spread thin across their vast empire, found themselves overwhelmed by enemies they had thought were broken and defeated. Dr. Song Mira's research had provided more than just ways to make Krathi soldiers sick. Her analysis of their metal body parts revealed critical weaknesses that rebels could exploit with simple tools. Manufacturing plants throughout the empire began producing faulty replacement parts, turning Krathi augmentations into deadly liabilities instead of advantages. The Vorthak Empire should pay attention to this lesson, Hana continued, her gaze moving to their snake-like representatives. "We have similar intelligence networks operating within your territories. The same warning applies to any species that sees humanity as easy prey." Admiral Kang Seojin's fleet had grown enormously, reinforced by ships emerging from hidden construction facilities that had been disguised as mining operations and research stations. Vessels that had been registered as simple cargo haulers suddenly revealed military-grade weapon systems that outclassed anything the major powers possessed. The Krati homeworld of Vexthara found itself surrounded by human warships within a month of the New Busan incident. The blockade wasn't meant to conquer the planet, but to send a clear message. The age of Krathi expansion was permanently over. War leader Vextar, now a prisoner on New Seoul, was brought before Governor Yang, doyen in what had once been the colony's peaceful administrative building. The room still had its calm decorations and comfortable furniture, but now it served as the headquarters for a military operation that spanned the galaxy. "Your empire is finished," Yang told him directly, without anger or satisfaction in his voice. "Not destroyed. We're not conquerors like you were, but finished as a threat to other species. Your military power has been eliminated, your conquered worlds are free, and your homeworld is under our protection." "You could have done this from the very beginning," Vextar said, his voice mixing anger with confusion. "Why the lies? Why let us believe we were stronger than you?" Yang thought about the question for a long moment before answering. "Because we hoped we wouldn't have to fight at all. Every day you didn't attack us was another day we could choose peace over war. Every moment you spent threatening other species, instead of us, was more time we could use to build things instead of destroying them. We gave you every possible chance to live alongside us peacefully. And when we refused that chance, then you learned why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars, even though we're softskins without natural claws or armor." Yang's expression became hard as steel. "We survived because we're extremely good at killing things that try to kill us. We just prefer not to have to do it." The final confrontation came when a group of Krathi elders arrived at New Seoul under a white flag of surrender, seeking terms that would allow their species to survive. They expected to find the primitive colony they remembered, but instead discovered a sophisticated military command center that had been hidden beneath layers of careful deception. Ambassador Hana received them in the same simple black suit she had worn to the Galactic Council months ago, but the meeting room told a very different story. The walls displayed real-time tactical information from across the galaxy, showing human forces maintaining peace in former Krathi territories while local populations established their own free governments. "What do you want from us?" the lead elder asked, his voice defeated. "Peace," Hana replied with the same simplicity she had always used. "The same thing we wanted when we first spoke to your council. The only difference is that now you understand what it costs to refuse our offer. The terms were absolute and non-negotiable: complete withdrawal from all conquered territories, dismantling of the Krathi war machine, and acceptance of galactic oversight of their remaining military forces. In exchange, humanity would provide aid during the transition and guarantee the safety of the Krathi homeworld. You could rule us completely," one elder observed. "Your capabilities clearly exceed anything we possess." "Ruling you would make us into what you used to be," Hana answered firmly. "We didn't come to the stars to become tyrants. We came to find our place among civilized species. If that place requires us to be the galaxy's protectors against those who prey on the weak, then we'll accept that responsibility." The Krathi delegation left with terms they had no choice but to accept. Throughout the galaxy, the balance of power had shifted permanently. Humanity had revealed itself not as conquerors, but as the force that would ensure no future conquerors could dominate the innocent. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They were peaceful by choice, not by weakness, and when that choice was taken away from them, their rage was terrible beyond imagination.